Okay, guys, back with you here on Monday, the 22nd of April. And per that polling that we did, right? So it looks like Bitcoin ended up being in the lead here. So we'll take a look at now. I haven't done a video on Bitcoin for I don't know, probably a couple of weeks. Well, one, I was out of town, and two, you guys have been getting just great analysis from a couple of my senseis, both Sensei Hova and Sensei Tutum, giving you some great analysis here. So they've gone through so much detail. I'm gonna give you maybe something you hadn't looked at, and maybe the simplified version here, because I think we can simplify here. Now, we've been through the move from the high to the low so many times. I'm going to spare you that. But there are a couple of things to note here. Now, if any of you watched the Ethereum video, this idea of range expansion seems to be making sense here. Let me give you sort of an example of what I mean here. So what have I got on here now? I've got, here, let's do it this way here. So let me change to the wolf range here. Oh, fuck, come here. Sorry, guys, hang on a sec. All right, Jesus, machine, probably time to reboot my machine. Okay, here we go. So let me get the wolf range on here. Okay, so just a couple of observations, right? I went through something similar with Ethereum here. So here's a clearly defined range here. Okay, so we get this range clearly identified here. We stayed sideways in that well, look what we did here. Right? So exactly to the tick range expansion. And I've shown that before. Right? It was also within a couple of ticks of a larger algo play, right? So again, of course, no random pivots in here I would propose to you. So it's hard to ignore that and go, well, likely with that level of precision, right? We know that's an algorithm. Okay, so it's an algorithm that perhaps we can track. So let's look at it coming back the other way. So that's established. I'm just going to take the same just eyeballing. What's the range looks like? Well, does that look like the range? Well, here's 100% of the range. Couple of ticks from it on this move, but there's some confluence here. So this clearly, we get this lower range and this upper range. So if we if we look at it from a measured move, let's oh shit, come here. Oh God, my machine is slow today. Hang on a sec. Oh man, I am seriously in need of a reboot. Okay, so let's think about where we are in this count. Well, so we've got something here, right? So that would be the equivalent of that. I suppose a bear, I think a bear is likely looking at this as 1, A, B, C into a 2, down for the 3. This somehow we're gonna pivot here, and then we're gonna go down one more time. That's what the bears are thinking, right? What else would they be thinking, right? So that seems like that's the bear count, and it makes sense. So if we do some measuring, so just to see if it would make sense, so just taking that. So in addition to being to the tick in the range expansion, right? Look here for a potential third. There's the high probability zone for a third down here. So if that's 1, 2, well, you've got an absolutely perfect 3, right? You've got the divergence there, right? You had declining volume, then we get the reaction out of it. So you can see clear divergence here in the Elliott oscillator. Oh, shit. Hang on. Oh, God damn, my machine is in serious need of a reboot. Okay, sorry, guys. Hopefully I can get through this without that being a problem. So 1, 2, 3, well, that's one hell of a big 4, right? So length of time, I think the symmetry is really getting stretched here. Really getting stretched. Now, something like this here would have made more sense. If we're going to go up, now we don't know that we're going to break that high. But if we're going to go up, do something like that, well, one, right, if we did go up here, well, that's where we have to turn it into a diagonal. This sure doesn't look like a diagonal to me. But if we're going to go up here and do something like that, then we're finishing with, well, you're going to have to do some hardcore relabeling here to get this to be a diagonal. Of course, it's possible. I just think less likely. So with that acknowledged, right, that there is a bear count here that could well be what plays out. Pull all this off here. So, right, let's focus on the bull count here for a minute. 1, 2. right? Deep for a 2, we know that, right? We've looked at this 100 times. Well, it looks like I'm well on my way here in an impulse. So now let me just, right, so clear, here's the 1, -150. So here, I'm just going to mark this off here. This is a candidate for, that would be 200% of that initial range. Right, you can see it right here, it would be 200%. Now, let me take this off if I can get it off. Okay, there we go. And I guess we can, now we can leave that on here. Okay, so 1, 2, where are we looking for the 3? All right, so just as we did on the way down, if that's correctly identified, and that's going to be my 1, 2. Well, here's your high probability zone for a 3, but God damn it. Note here that this is the internal, so that's relative to this 1, 2. So it doesn't play as well for us to be finished with the white third right here, right? The subdivision. Could you make a case for it? Yeah, you could. That you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think until we fail here, I'm more inclined to put my third up here. Now, granted, we're going beyond the high probability zone, right? So the fact that we get a reaction there doesn't surprise me. 1, we're at a 50. 2, we're at 100% of the range expansion. And as I think I showed you this here. So if we go down to the low, all right, so here's the 50. So you look at that and you go, why does it stop there? Right? That's always the question. Well, we don't have to wonder why it stops there. So clearly there's an algorithm here from the dominant swing high to swing low, kicks in at that 50. Now, just because it's there doesn't mean they can't get through it, right? It looks like they're about to challenge it. So are we potentially now setting up for this move here? Look at this confluence that would take us up to the median line, to the golden zone of this swing. You'd have the 272 in here. It would be a little bit unusual, but nothing says we have to stop there. Here's the 2618 right at the point of control. So if this is going to have a little more juice in it to get up to this level here, well then, right, wouldn't be crazy here. Then we'd be doing a 2618 right as we come smack dab back into all that market acceptance where we were, right? We all recall that being stuck in that range from essentially, call it 5,800 to 7,800, which we were in for quite some extended period of time. So if we're going to go up here and challenge that, well, we're going to need a big kick here in the 5th, right? If the 4 is correctly identified and we're going up here. I don't know that we're going to have all of that in it, but this sure looks like that's a reasonable possibility here. Now, right, it's just a forecast. It's just a potential roadmap. We've yet to break this, and we know there's going to be defense there. So 1, 2. Potentially now that pivot. So I don't think we get a whole lot of conviction either side until we see what happens here. Okay, so 1, do we get this move here to complete the impulse off of the low? Right? Do we get this completing from this pivot here to give us a clear impulse? Right? So then we lean into the idea we've got our third there, right? It would make perfect sense with that confluence with the algo that we know is going to be there to sell. So if we get that, right, then this is going to be the tell right here, right? What happens here? Do we get that? Oh shit, that's just really running slow. Okay, so let's look at that. Okay, so we've got that one to get through on that side, but I'm going to take it off just to clear up the chart. So if this is 1, 2, we're going to pull from the low of the 2 to the proposed. Now, again, I don't have this, right? So this is just hypothetical, something along these lines to get us down here for that 4 right there. All right, so this is going to tell, I would for the near term, for the next 90 days, that's going to be the tell as to what we've got here, right? So if we get that, then we lean into this as our hard low, crypto winter ending, 1, 2, 3, right? If we get that, that would be, well, shit, we don't have to get that high, right? I'm just using the median line as a target here, right? It may not be. It may be that we'd be doing something like that. Remember, that's right where the golden zone is off of that pivot. So something like that could possibly, well, now we'd have to go back a pivot. See if I can get this to play from this swing low. Right, now that looks kind of interesting, right? So here you get, note the confluence here. So here's the 65, here's the target. So if this is going to get up here and get to that, now note I'm at the higher pivot here. So if we're going to get up to that, we got to get through the 65. That would kill the bear. Well, there'd be another one because there's a pivot back further. But that from what we can see here, from this pivot up here, at 8,500. If we break that 65, right, so this bull count starts to really look good, right? So something along those lines, right? Then we lean into this as our hard low, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what have we got there? Just the one wave off of the two. Pardon me, off of this pivot here. So this, if crypto winter ends here at 3,200, we complete this impulse. Well, we're going to be looking a whole lot better, but of course, then it still just becomes, right? It's just probabilities. Do we get the 50% to go into the big three, and now we're off to challenge 10 grand, 20, even, or more, right? So that just remains to be seen. The next sell-off. Well, first, right, we got two things to happen. Can we break this low, sitting at a 50, go up? Now here's the larger 50, right? We got this. Right, so I'm just moving back a pivot. So we have this 50 to deal with, then this golden zone to deal with. We get through that, then it's, I think we really start to feel better about the impulse off of that low. Until then, this has got to play out. So if the potential, of course, is that this starts to fall over, and we've got, this ends up being an A, B, C, and then we're going 1, 2, and then we're going down much lower, right? So that I think is less likely. Still a probability, right? We can't eliminate it. Right? Just can't eliminate anything, right? Shit, anything can happen. But if I'm looking for a trade setup, I don't know that I wouldn't be a buyer here. Well, number one, you're buying right into a 50. Two, we've got structure here. There's not a lot of room up here, even if you're just thinking in terms of making the median line, right? So to get the 80% off of this corner pocket, right? It's a deep 2, but it's still a corner pocket, right? So the odds are still favored that we reach the median line. So there's just not enough there to take the risk to be buying right into a 50 from the lower pivot. You know what I'm talking about here, right? This, right? Do you want to buy into that right here? I don't. Now, if I get through it, do I want to sell that? No, rarely do I ever look for sells in Bitcoin. So if we get up here and we get to that golden zone, I'm just anticipating a reaction there, looking for the 4. Here is where I want to buy. I want to buy into that 4 because I'm a bull. So I think that that's going to go finish that 5. That's what I'm looking for. So something down here around 5,100, but this has to happen first. So as for a new trade, I think you got to be patient here, guys. I don't, that's, again, as I just said, I don't want to be a buyer right into a 50. And I don't want to be a seller because I'm a bull. So if it gets up here, you get day traders. Yeah, there's probably a little mini swing trade there. It's not a trade that I would take because I'm going to sit, if this goes here, right, I don't know that I'd even take any profit here. So I'm long from so much lower. But if we come down here and we get this, that's a potential add. That I like, right? But realistic. So that's from 5,100 with a target up here at, call it 6,800. Shit, that's a nice looking trade right there. Right? But, of course, this all has to happen. And we're sitting here. We haven't even broken through that 50. So first, we got to get through that with some legs. Get up here, challenge that golden zone, that median line, see a reaction. Yeah, I'll wait for that. That's me, personally, right? If I get a good 3 coming down, I'm all over that. All right, guys, kind of a little bit shorter here. I went much longer on Ethereum here, but I think you can simplify here. I don't think we need to be overly complicated. All right, there you go. Okay, guys.